Hey, my beautiful baby Ori Earth angels. I'm so thankful that you're here for another spiritual Saturday. Whether you're listening while you're driving, folding laundry, or laying in bed because life just feels heavy today, I want you to know that I'm really glad you came. Today, we're going to be talking about something that I think every single human being experiences, but very few of us have the language for: identity. Or more accurately, an identity crisis. Before you click away because you think, Tisha, I know who I am, give me a second, because I'm not asking, what's your name? I'm asking something much deeper. Who are you when no one else is watching? Who are you when you're no longer trying to survive? Who are you when you take away your job, your title, your accomplishment, your trauma, your mistakes, and your expectations? Who is left? I think that's one of the bravest questions that we'll ever have to answer. I can't answer that question for you. However, I want to help you begin discovering your answer. So grab your favorite drink, don't forget your favorite snack, relax your shoulders, take a few deep breaths, and let's dive in. As for my little snacks, I have my water, I have some orange grapefruit juice, and then I have some plantain chips, some hummus, and my favorite, a golden kiwi. Let's get back into this. Have you ever met someone who has no idea who they are, but they know exactly who everyone expects them to be? Maybe they're the strong one, the peacemaker, the funny one, the black sheep, the overachiever, the caretaker, or even the problem child. Somewhere along the way, these labels stop describing us and they start defining us. Until one day, you wake up and you look in the mirror and you ask yourself, who am I? Because somewhere between surviving, pleasing, performing, and protecting yourself, you lost sight of the person underneath all of it. I think almost every adult is carrying some version of an identity crisis. We just don't call it that. We call it burnout or anxiety or feeling stuck. So we go out and we buy a new wardrobe, or we change careers and we move cities, or we end relationships and we start new ones. Sometimes we even go back to school because we'd rather fill every moment with distractions, hoping one of these things finally help us understand ourselves. But I feel identity isn't something that we have to find, it's something we have to uncover. My story. I'm still kind of struggling with my story, so if I stop or stutter a lot, just this part is kind of rough for me. I wanted to share stories and give each other advice in this place with you, with the hopes that we all feel a little less alone. There have been seasons in my life where if you asked me who I was, I would have answered with all these answers that weren't actually me. I would have told you about my pain or my disappointments and my responsibilities, or the roles that I carried and the people that I loved, or battles I had fought. I became fluent in describing my titles and traumas, but I was speechless when speaking about who I am. Have you ever noticed we all do this though? I mean, ask someone to tell you about themselves. Often they respond with, I'm a mom, or I'm married, or I'm an entrepreneur, or something about their anxiety, or some debilitating disability that they have. All of these things are true, but they aren't you. These are experiences that we have, and roles that we play, and chapters that we live in. I want you to sit with this thought for a while. If all of these things disappeared tomorrow, if all of these titles disappeared tomorrow, who would be left sitting there? And speaking for myself, I'm not sure I know my own answer. I have become so good at making myself fit into whatever environment I need to at the time. Realizing this scares me. I spend so much time becoming who is needed of me, and masking or trying to make myself smaller, or trying not to take up too much space and dimming my own light to keep others comfortable in my presence. Until one day I realized every time I do these things to myself for the comfort of others, I lose sight of who I was created to be. It's one of the reasons I started Spiritual Blueprint, because I don't believe healing is about inventing a brand new version of yourself. Healing is the slow, courageous work of removing everything that was never truly you. Every lie, every mask, and every survival strategy that once protected you but no longer serves you. Not because these things make you weak, but because you don't need them anymore. I'm gonna get a little vulnerable with you now, and I'm gonna share with you the journey I had to go through to realize I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was beginning to meet myself, to see myself for all that I truly am. So right now I'm just gonna read to you my notes that I have here, because I didn't write out like a full story. I just kind of wrote some notes. So what I have written here, so July 2024 to July 2026. Honestly, let me put this down. I've always kind of lived my life with this identity crisis because I never really knew much about my family. I knew my siblings, but my grandma has a crazy past. We didn't really grow up around my grandpa's side of the family. Like his family was the family that we knew the most. But where are you trying to go? What do you want to say here? What do you want to do with this? I don't know what I want to do with it. I don't know if I'm ready for this episode myself. I'm going to talk about the spiral that began the journey of me understanding myself. July 2024 began a journey of homelessness for me. And I'm talking legit homelessness. I've experienced homelessness all throughout my life. But this time it was genuinely no place to go, no one to turn to. I had to figure it out. So what I did was I was living in my car, and in living in my car, of course my sons, they can't live with me. So they have to go live with their dad. So that was a traumatic experience. First, not realizing I have no one to turn to, then living in my car, then my sons having to go live with their dad. It just felt like blow after blow, and I literally just got out of jail. It just felt like blow after blow. I was at rock bottom. Like, I've been to rock bottom a couple of times, but I want to say this was like pits of hell. I hadn't felt this horrible since maybe the police incident that happened to me happened. My depression was in over my head. Every day I felt like I was drowning. I don't know why or what happened, but a bunch of things from my childhood began to flood my memory. A bunch of traumatic, horrible things that I had buried and forgotten about. When they first started resurfacing, I was struggling with dealing with them. They weren't the thoughts that I needed to be having, especially in that time. And two, on top of that, I was dealing with like hearing the voices of like all of the women that couldn't nurture me or couldn't show up for me. My grandma, my mom, my aunt, my cousins. I began hearing all of their voices in my head. And when I'm battling with depression, those are the voices that I hear the most. Like, those are the loudest voices in my head. I turn against myself. I get very mean. I get very ugly with myself until eventually, like, I can't. Like, I'm all cried out. There's no more crying that I can do. This is really, really hard for me to talk about. Wow. I thought I was ready for this. Okay. Hearing all of these voices, and I'm all cried out at this point. There's no more left that I can take, right? Visions then began to flood my mind. And there was this one vision that I had. It was a vision of, I don't know if y'all have ever seen Alice in Wonderland, but the part where she's crying and she's crying so much that it starts to flood the room that she's in. But I wasn't flooding a room. I was crying in my vision. I'm crying, but I'm not flooding a room. I'm flooding the void, literally. And the crying is so bad that it turns into a storm. And the storm, I'm like little Alice in Wonderland. I think she was, what is she on? She's floating on something, but I was in like a little bottle cap, like a little bottle cap, like the plastic water bottle cap. And eventually, like I'm trying to like push the bottle cap away from the giant version of me that's like crying and flooding the void. And I'm trying so hard, and like my tears are like, you know, pushing, like I'm so afraid I'm gonna capsize. But eventually, like I realized like me pushing the tears away is kind of working. And I see like a house on the horizon. And so I'm trying as hard as I can to get to that house. But I think at some point I wind up falling out of the cap, right? And I'm like falling into the void, and I'm looking up and I can see like light there, but I'm falling deeper into a dark space. And it made me sadder. Like as I'm falling into this void, I'm thinking I should have just gave up. Like it's because I could see like the sun, or like the dark clouds that were the storm back here behind me. In front of me were the clouds, and I was so close to touching them if I could have just made it to that horizon. And as I'm falling into the void, I'm thinking, I just want to give up, or I should have just gave up. And I close my eyes, and at some point I wake up on like land. And when I wake up on land, I get up and I look around, and I realize that I made it to shore, the house that I was trying to make it to. And so I get up and I go to look in the house for refuge. But as I'm walking to the house, there's these, I think they're sugar canes, I'm not sure, but there's these tall like stalk crops. And in the fields, there's slaves. They look like my ancestors, and they're just like all in awe, or like not in awe, but they're like staring at me in like disbelief. And they're like turning and like looking at each other and then looking back at me. And they just, some of them keep working, but some of them notice me. And so I'm just like staring, like not staring, but like walking and looking at them strange, because like, where am I, right? And so when I finally make it up to the house, it is an old plantation home, and it's like decrepit and falling apart. I don't remember what happened to Batuita there, but I remember that when I got into the house, there was a little girl there. That little girl was my inner child. It was baby Tisha. And she like accidentally broke something. I think she was like holding something, and she saw me and she like dropped it. And she was just so in shock. And you hear somebody starting to yell at her, like reprimand her, but instead, like, you hear them coming, and by the time the footsteps come, it's like this older, like heavy-set black woman, and she's like a house slave, and she's like, I think she said like, "Oh my Lord," or something like that, and she like faints, and somebody else comes. It's another tall, skinny woman. She's like, she just comes in and she gasps. She's like, and she just says she made it home. And when they said this, I was looking around like, who made it home? Like, I didn't know where I was. And I remember like baby me just coming and hugging my legs. And the next thing that I remember after that, or like hugging my waist maybe, or was it my legs? I don't remember exact details, but they come and she clings to me. And yeah, I just remember there was this big rejoicing moment. And the slaves come from outside, they come into the house and they start repairing the house. And it goes from like this gray, like black and white movie kind of feel to this like beautiful, like colors starting to saturate. Colors starting to saturate. It was just such a beautiful, warming, comforting. I need to find that so I can read it to y'all. I'm going to try to find it, and next Spiritual Saturday, if I find it next Spiritual Saturday, I'm going to read that one to y'all. I need to find where, in what journal I wrote it in. But it was just such a beautiful vision to have. I think that was the beginning of my homecoming, the beginning of my welcome back. Like, I've been trying to learn and understand self-love for many years, the last 10 years of my life. But it was then, at the end of 2024 or beginning of 2025, when I had that vision, that I realized what was going on. I realized this was a true homecoming. This was a true meeting myself for the first time again. I am not the woman that I want to be. I am not my future self yet. And I know there's a long road ahead of me, but I'm currently walking that road. I'm more forgiving of myself. I'm more gentle with myself. I'm trying to become the adult that I needed when I was a little girl. I'm trying to give myself the love that I was looking for in everyone else, the acceptance, the embracement, I guess that's the right word, that I was looking for from everyone else. I'm trying to figure out how to give that to myself. I'm trying to be patient and understanding with myself a little bit more. I'm trying to learn to show up for myself. And it all started with that vision. Once that vision came, all of these other visions of my spiritual journey and what part I'm in, they all started just coming like crazy. The, whispers started. I've always kind of had whispers in my sleep, but I just thought it was my brain being overactive, and maybe that's all that it is. But these whispers are a little bit different. My brain being overactive is usually my brain trying to figure out, like, connect the links of human evolution or something like that. How did humans evolve, and what species played what role, and how did we go from single-celled organisms to these advanced multi-cell, what we are today. Thinking about black holes, things like that. That's usually what my, things that I hear in my sleep usually are. My brain trying to analyze those types of things. But these whispers were different. This was, I don't know, I can't even think of one of them now, but I'm gonna start putting like whispers that I think are good advice to share with you guys. I'm gonna start putting whispers in the spiritual blueprint episodes, just because I think that it's nice to give those gifts to someone. If the ancestors give them to me, then it's nice to share them with someone else, I realized if I hadn't been so isolated by myself, I think I was in survival mode, but I think I wouldn't have learned to give myself grace. I learned to be in survival mode and give myself grace. Whereas before, when I was in survival mode, because I still had to worry about being a mom and getting bills paid, things like that. Don't get me wrong, I still had financial, I was still worrying about getting stuff taken care of. getting bills paid and stuff like that while I was living in my car too, because I'm trying my best to like get housing and stuff like that, but it wasn't working out. But I had to go through these things. I had to go through being homeless. I had to go through that time to learn how to give myself grace, to learn to be in survival mode and still give myself grace. Now my life is pretty, I wouldn't say it's pretty soft. Well, no, I am gonna say it's pretty soft. Now my life is pretty soft, but I am still struggling. I'm still human. Life still has its ebbs and its flows, its ups and its downs. Right now, my biggest thing that I'm struggling with is just parenting. But I don't think, I think there's something to be learned in this moment. It's hard when I'm in the moments with my son to remember like this is a good learning curve, but I can't see the lessons when I'm in the moment. But once I'm outside of the moments and I can process them, that's when it's better for me. But I think that these moments, there's always going to be somewhere in your life where you need to grow. And I think that these moments are meant to teach me how to get outside of, there's a part of me that I hide. And that part of me is what I call the monster. And that monster is this very aggressive, violent person. And I think with my son being the age that he's at, testing boundaries, things like that, it's the universe's way of saying, I'm still here to help you grow. This is the next thing that we have to work on. Remembering to use love whenever, or to be light whenever I want, whenever that side of me wants to come out. I think my biggest lesson right now that I'm stuck in is balancing standing your ground, or like not standing your ground, but holding firm on boundaries, because I'm just learning boundaries. I'm just learning how to put them in place. And I think that's where I'm at right now, learning when it's holding your boundaries or standing firm in your boundaries versus when it's you've lost control and now you're becoming someone that you don't want to be. I need to find that middle ground and learn how to say no, but with love. I can do it for a little bit, but once I'm pushed a little bit more, once I'm really irritated with something, it's no longer just no, it's I can be aggressive. And I think that's, I was thinking about this today, and I think that's what my lesson right now, that's what the universe is trying to teach me right now. And I'm kind of, it's hard. I'm having a hard time. I'm struggling with it, but I'm also grateful because I know there's gonna come a day, maybe it's in a year, maybe it's in 2 years, maybe it's 5 years from now, where I can look back and say, I be proud of myself that I don't respond that way anymore, or I don't do things that way anymore. I feel like right now the universe is handing me a lot of tools that are helping me chisel away at my future self. There's an analogy in this paper that I wrote that does kind of talk about Michelangelo and David and how, I don't want to say too much, but chiseling to sculpt the person you really want to become or your future self. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm learning to stop working on everyone else so that way I can work on myself, focus on myself, focus on becoming a better me, focus on not just being a better mom, because I say that consumes most of my life. Everything that I do, you ask me about it, I'm gonna tell you, I wanna be the best mom that I can. But outside of being a mom, my kids are gonna grow up and they're gonna go become their own person. So outside of being a mom, outside of that title, who do I wanna be outside of that? Before my kids, I wanted to be the best sister. I wanted to be the protective sister. I wanted to be the sister that showed up. before, in that time too, I wanted to be the best athlete. I wanted to be the best granddaughter. I thought all of those things would give me validation or make me feel loved. And they didn't. There was coaches that I had that would remind me that I wasn't the best, or coaches that I had that would talk shit about me. Just, I don't even know why. I'm like a 15, 16-year-old girl. She just really hated me. And I wasn't like a bad student or anything like that, so it wasn't anything like that. I never gave her a hard time. As a matter of fact, she'd always make me cry. But I spent so much time being the people pleaser, being the protective one, being the nurturer, being all of these titles that I'm now at a space where I understand. It's time to just be Tisha. Who does Tisha want to be? Who is Tisha? Not who do I want to be, who am I? And all I can think of is love and light. I go back to my inner child and I think about all of the times that I would just draw like little rainbows and hearts and love, and how so forgiving of everyone. I don't want to be ran over. I want to learn to balance both. I want to protect that little girl. I want to protect that light that she had. So that's Tisha. She's light, but she's also the protector. She's all so many things in one, and I want to get back to being true to all of that. And I think that right now is the perfect time to be learning this or that. I'm really struggling with this, guys. Like, I don't know. This is a lot. And I think I need more time to process this too. Because now I'm starting to think about like my mom and my dad, and it's that ugly voice is just starting to creep into my head of, but nobody ever wanted you, nobody, you weren't worth anything. Like that little ugly side is just starting to rear its head, and I don't want that. So I'm gonna stop talking about me, and I'm gonna get back to reading this paper so we can continue with today's conversation, because this is getting emotionally heavy for me. But this is what the spiritual blueprint is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a safe space where heaviness can kind of dissipate, can be lifted a little bit. But right now I'm struggling, and I want to I don't want to stop the video. I want to keep this going, because maybe this also helps someone else process, not just ruminate. I don't want to ruminate over these things. I know me, I'm going to process them, and eventually the answers will come to me. Wait, I'm going to read to you my notes, and maybe that'll help. So my personal story, I wanted to talk about survival mode to soft life, because right now I do believe that I'm living a much softer life. That survival mode is it's like a wall that's slowly coming down. Sometimes I revert and I let it back up a little bit, but then I just remember there's so much for me to be grateful for. I'm not living in my car anymore. I'm not going to a 9-to-5 that I hate. I can show up better for my kids. I can show up better for myself. I have time to cook and to clean my house, things like that. Don't get me wrong, my house wasn't dirty before, but just I can keep structure a little better than I could before. And that to me is what a soft life should be. This is just my notes, okay? I just want to keep that clear. Understanding everything I went through had to happen for me. And that's literally how I feel. I don't believe things happen to us. I believe they happen for us. There's no good, there's no bad. I just believe that we have to learn to ask ourselves, what is the lesson here when you think you're going through something that's bad? It's not really bad. There's either you're going through it to help someone else, or it's to help you grow. Sometimes it's both. I think this stage of my life right now, everything that I have going on, I think these things are here to help me grow as a person. Okay, so all these things that I feel are bad are happening for me. These things gave me a greater appreciation for my soft life. Okay, I'm talking about like the beginning of 2024, or not beginning, but 2024, me going from homelessness to where I am right now in life. These situations introduced me to my inner child who reminded me of my own strength. These times led me home spiritually and forced me to speak with my ancestors who were always trying to guide me. Then I began to see and hear and feel things spiritually again. It was all divine. Because no one was around for me, I was in isolation, I had to cry out to the universe and find my own faith. So here's some other notes that I wrote. I said, talk about facing homelessness, losing your siblings, losing your boys, and the fear of losing yourself. Then talk about how being at your lowest taught you to understand and recognize your strength more than you ever have before. It taught me to remember my strength, to remember it and to understand it. There you go. Yeah, those are good words. These are the questions that I had to ask myself. What mask was I wearing? I was wearing the mask of strength. I had a horrible fear of losing face. I was acting like I didn't need anything and I wasn't broken. Why did I need this mask? I needed this mask to survive, to hang on, to stay a little longer for my sons. I had to fake it until I made it. I needed to hang on to my delusions. When did I realize this mask no longer fit? When I realized of all of the horrible and challenging things I've been through, I have always figured out how to stand back up, and I've always done it alone. I remembered my soul is so strong. I'm so forgiving and so loving. No matter how ugly life has shown me it can be, I still desire the best for everyone. I am liked. What did taking your mask off feel like? It felt freeing. One day I woke up and it hit me. This was a literal 360 moment. I can alchemize anything. I have alchemized every horrible thing I have ever been through. I embraced myself for who I was for the first time instead of trying to force out my light. And what I mean by that is all the time I feel this hatred towards myself for always being forgiving. Like, I feel like you want to be a doormat. You keep allowing yourself to be a doormat because you keep allowing people to treat you this way. You keep allowing people to be disrespectful to you or ugly or take advantage of you. You allow people to talk this way to you. And that's what I mean, instead of trying to force it out. Instead of putting up this barricade to protect myself from, being taken advantage of or being, feeling used, I just embraced it. I realized what I really needed here was boundaries. I have always been my only dependable source. I always figure out how to suck it up and get through it. Further, I am highly favored because the universe always provides me with better once I get up. I'm gonna move on to the next section. It gets a little cleaner from here. It's not as confusing. Because I type this and then I write on top of the notes. So one of the best things I've learned along this journey is you don't have to hate the person you had to become to survive. That version of you deserves compassion. That version of you got you here. That version of you protected you with the tools that they had at that time. So today isn't about criticizing that version of you. Today is about thanking them and gently letting them know, I've got it from here. So if identity isn't something we create, and maybe it isn't even something we find, then what is it? Here's an analogy to help you better understand the purpose of healing. Many people know the famous sculpture of David by Michelangelo. People ask him how he created something so breathtaking from a block of marble. One version of his answers has been passed down for generations. He essentially said, I saw David inside of the marble and I simply removed everything that wasn't David. I love that. Healing can't be about creating a new person. A new person has nothing to heal from. Healing is slowly chiseling away everything that was never truly you. Chisel away your fear, your shame, the mask, expectations, labels, and the voices. One day, you'll wake up and feel your blueprint glowing through you. That is kind of a tongue twister. Blueprint glowing. One day, you'll wake up and feel your blueprint glowing through you. Let's talk about these masks for a moment. Not physical masks, but invisible masks. At some point, every single one of us has worn one. Many of us become a mask. Some of us become mini masks. The strong one, because no one else was strong. The funny one, because making people laugh feels safer than letting them see you cry. The caregiver, because if everyone else was okay, maybe you'd feel okay too. The invisible one, because disappearing felt safer than being noticed. The perfectionist, because mistakes didn't feel safe. The people pleaser, because rejection felt unbearable. These masks aren't born out of weakness, they're created out of wisdom. The wisdom of a younger version of yourself who learned, this is how I survive. Now it's time you take it off. But before you take it off, thank them. Our survival deserves compassion instead of shame. There's an importance to removing your mask. The older we come, the more they can become a double-edged sword. The mask that protected us as children often imprisons us as adults. Your survival is not your identity. Imagine something with me. Imagine a little girl walking through a storm. The wind is insane, the rain is pouring. She picks up something to shield herself. Let's say the first thing she sees. It's a trash can lid. This lid is the only way that she'll make it through the storm, so she clings to it. Sometime later, the storm has passed, the sun is shining, flowers are blooming, but she's still carrying around that trash can lid. She doesn't realize she doesn't need it anymore. She holds onto it just in case. She's forgotten she can put it down. How many of us are carrying around trash can lids because we're emotionally attached? Yet, the storm passed a long time ago. That lid no longer fits your life. Your lid is your hyper-independence, your perfectionism, your distrust, your anger, and people-pleasing. It's staying busy and never asking for help. It's constantly apologizing or always preparing for the worst. These aren't personality traits, they're survival strategies. And survival strategies are not the same thing as identity. If you're open to it, let's try this exercise. It's not meant for you to judge yourself or criticize yourself. It's just to become curious. Think about words you use most often to describe yourself. Write them down if you can. Now ask yourself, did I choose this, or was this handed to me by life? Are you actually impatient, or have you been living in survival mode for so long that your nervous system never learned to rest? Are you really too much, or did someone make you feel like taking up space was dangerous? Are you truly a cold person, or did you build up walls because they once made you feel safe? Are you broken, or have you simply been carrying wounds that deserve tenderness? Your curiosity will change everything, because curiosity doesn't accuse, curiosity listens, it investigates. I believe every one of us carries an original design. Now, what that may look like is different depending on your beliefs. For some of you, your blueprint comes from your God. For others, it's simply being the truest version of yourself. I'm not here to tell you what you should believe or what you shouldn't. I'm simply inviting you to consider the possibility that what if beneath every wound, every disappointment, or every title, there's always been a version of you waiting to be remembered. Not improved, not perfected, just remembered. Maybe that's why healing can feel so emotional, because it's not introducing us to a stranger, it's reintroducing us to ourselves. I want to challenge a sentence that I hear all the time. I just need to find myself. Maybe, but what if that's not actually true? What if you were never lost? What if the real work isn't about finding yourself? What if it's about introspection? What if it's about sitting with yourself? That's how you'll find your way back to yourself. There's a big difference. Finding yourself assumes you were gone. Introspection means you've been there all along, waiting gracefully, without judgment, knowing that one day you'd come home. That's what your Ori's been whispering all along. Not become someone else, but whenever you're ready, come home. So, if healing is remembering and identity is uncovering rather than creating, how do you actually begin remembering today? Pretend that I've given you a mirror. Not so you can judge yourself, but so you can finally see yourself with compassion. If you have a journal, I'd love for you to write these questions down. If your hands are tired right now, don't worry. Just let these questions settle into your heart. You can always come back later. Question 1. Who did I become in order to survive? Not who you wanted to become, who did you actually have to become? Question 2. What part of that version of me am I ready to lovingly lay down? Not because you hate that version of yourself, but because you've outgrown it. Number 3. When do you most feel like yourself? Is it when you're laughing, creating, helping others, being in nature? These moments usually happen when you're not performing. Number 4. Whose voice do I hear most often inside of my own head? Is it your own? Is it a parent? Is it a teacher? An ex? Maybe it's fear or shame. And I want to say this. Not every voice living in your mind deserves to exist there. Number 5. If fear wasn't making today's decisions, what would love choose instead? Healing is asking yourself the questions you've been too afraid to ask. I think an identity crisis is grieving the person you had to become while slowly remembering the person you've always been. You're not just changing, you're saying goodbye. Goodbye to the versions of you that fought incredibly hard to keep you alive. That angry version, the hyper-independent version, the people pleaser, the perfectionist, the version that never cried, the version that never trusted anyone, the version that trusted everyone. Every one of them served a purpose. Every one of them deserves compassion, not condemnation. Healing doesn't tell us to hate these versions. Healing asks us how to think these versions. Healing wraps them up in love and whispers, you can rest now. Isn't that what growing up is? Becoming safe enough to finally become yourself, to follow your own blueprint. I want to leave you with a seed for your spiritual garden. Every morning before you reach for your phone, before the world tells you who it needs you to be, place your hand over your heart, take one slow deep breath, and quietly ask yourself, what does the truest version of me want today? What does the truest version of me choose today? Not what makes everyone else happy, not what keeps everyone comfortable, simply, what does my blueprint say? You don't have to answer perfectly, you just have to be listening. Before I go, I want to read this letter that I wrote with hopes it moves one of my little Oris. Maybe it's you. To the Ori who doesn't recognize themselves anymore, I know that feeling. I know what it's like to wake up one morning and realize you've become so busy surviving that you've forgotten what brings you joy. I know what it feels like to introduce yourself by your pain because your pain has been with you longer than peace has. I hope you'll never forget this message. My hope is that this stains your heart. You're not broken, you're buried. Broken things need replacing. Buried things need uncovering. This journey feels so slow because you're not building yourself from scratch. You're brushing away years of fear, expectation, heartbreak, and survival. Don't lose faith. One day, you'll catch a glimpse of yourself again. When that day comes, don't rush your encounter. Smile, greet yourself, and say, there you are. I've been looking for you. If today you can't quite see that person yet, borrow my hope. I'll believe you're still there until you can believe it too. Now you'll always have someone to lean on. Whew. We made it to the end, girl. I don't know why that was funny to me. That just came out of nowhere. Thank you for spending another spiritual Saturday with me. If today's conversation stirred something inside of you, I'd love to hear your story. You can send me your letters, your questions, your reflections, or topics you'd like us to explore at spiritualblueprintcollective@gmail.com. If this episode reminded you of someone, don't just share the video, share hope. Invite them to pull up a chair, because there's always room at this table. And remember, healing isn't becoming someone else, it's remembering who you've been all along. Until next spiritual Saturday, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I love you, my little baby Ori Earth angels.